I've played a lot of NES games, more than I'm comfortable admitting, and those games all have varying degrees of length. Some of them you can blow through in a few minutes, some once you learn all of the intricacies you can beat them in say 30 minutes, but there are games out there that will take you hours. Hours of sitting down, committing to understanding the way a game functions, and riding that lightning all the way to the sweet ending credits. Now, I previously did a longest NES game episode, but that list was absolutely dominated by RPGs. Two of our community members, Todd Begins 5217 as well as OG Rex, mentioned a long time ago, about 7 months, that it would be cool if we did a non-RPG longest NES games episode. And for anyone who watches my videos, I promise to consistently deliver videos based on your requests. You took the time to write them, the least I can do is create that experience for you. And incorporating feedback is what separates the goons from the people who genuinely want to foster a community. I'm the latter. So today's episode is going to be all about the longest NES games that are not RPGs. Let's begin. When I did the first episode, I was running into grind-heavy RPGs that were kind of testing the water for the genre, right? There weren't any tropes well established in Dragon Warrior or Final Fantasy. It was a wild frontier based on very rudimentary ideas from Ultima and Wizardry. The truth is, historically, turn-based strategy games that cover the Three Kingdoms tend to be long. Now, this game is the sequel to Romance of the Three Kingdoms, and it's better, much better actually. We have 6 different scenarios, 41 provinces, and 200 unique characters. And some of the improvements that were made include a reputation system that works, items that boost our stats, advisors that are not yes men, and custom characters you can create. It's a solid game, and I will say almost all of these games are the same, but if you enjoy turn-based strategy, this game is solid. Now, I talk about these games with the intentions of beating them, right? In this case, we just need to unify China. To beat one scenario alone can be up to 30 hours, so take that as you will. All these scenarios only really affect the characters that we go up against and how they are positioned, so it's a variety of different starting formats. If you're a completionist, it might well be over 100 hours, but I'm going to keep it simple. One scenario beat. Well, we just talked about Romance 2, so why not talk about its predecessor, Romance of the Three Kingdoms? For those of you who don't know, this whole game series is based on a 14th century novel by Luo Gongzhang. It talks about the end years of the Han Dynasty, and if we go further back, there was another book known as the Records of the Three Kingdoms from the 3rd century. This franchise through and through is based in historical accuracies with a few literary licenses because it is a video game after all. We have tons of characters, 5 different starter scenarios, and an exceptionally rudimentary system that would be improved on tremendously throughout the years. In fact, the Super Nintendo era of romance games are some of my favorites. They are a huge glow-up, if you will. But I do want to say that this franchise, believe it or not, still exists. The most recent version of this was Romance of the Three Kingdoms 14! 14! In 2020. I didn't know they still existed. I knew that Koei and Tecmo merged as a company, but damn! I need to catch up. There were tons of baseball games on the NES, and they all have their own little quirks. If you want Little League, you could, right? If you wanted novelty characters, there's one that exists. If you wanted a generic baseball game, there's a fuck ton of them, right? But there were a few higher echelon baseball games that you needed to put time into. Baseball Stars, Baseball Simulator 1, and more importantly, Bases Loaded. Now, I love Bases Loaded, but it's a long game, and it's a hard game, incredibly difficult. But the good news is, Jaleco introduced mechanics that, to me, were different and fun. In other baseball games, you would simply hit the button, swing the bat, but Bases Loaded, and all of its NES iterations, of which there are 4, allowed you to fine-tune your aim with your bat. If you pushed the D-pad up, you'd aim at the upper area, left, right, and so on and so on. And to me, that's the reason why I consider this franchise as one of the best on the NES if you want a good, clean baseball game. I actually did an episode about the top 10 NES sports games, and if you want to check it out, I'll link it in the description below and at the end of this video. Now, this one is Bases Loaded 2, the 2nd season, and it offers an insane amount of ball whacking. The run-of-the-mill tournament mode is Pennant Race, and we need at least 75 wins to beat that, and then after that, we do a best of 7 World Series. If you want to play this, you'll need to really buckle down, put some time into it, just shy of 33 hours. And once you're done with those 33 brutal hours of slapping balls around a baseball diamond, you could play Bases Loaded 3 or Bases Loaded 4, which is another phenomenally long game with more advanced mechanics that result in another pennant race with even more games, and a super series, much like its predecessor. Now, I've played all of them, at least for the NES episode that I did, and to me, Bases Loaded 4, it's not really that fun. And I think it's because Jaleco was just really busy chucking the same idea over and over and over again to the point where the game kind of became unfun. And that's just me, right? What do I know? I'm just a boy. But I did prefer Bases Loaded 2 over this. Because as time goes on, Bases Loaded diminishes in playability or fun. They tend to just slog on, right? It's just another 30+ hour game at best, but good luck committing to all the nonsense. It's just too much baseball for me. There were so many more amazing games out there for me to play, I would not have focused on just this. There were tons of racing games. Tons. And many of them didn't focus on realism. And in some ways I feel it's because realism wasn't really an aspect of gaming that was possible for the NES. The NES exists in a time where standards of racing mostly aligned with the progress being made in the arcades. We have quite a few top-down racing games and very basic attempts at rehashing out the style that made Hang On from Sega popular. Think of Rad Racer or Road Blasters. Michael Andretti's World GP kind of broke that mold by accounting for physics in a way that was never seen before. Instead of easy turns, we were given accurate hairpin turns, and because the acceleration is gear-based, we needed to be cognizant of the capabilities of our car. There are times when you'll need to shift at least 10 times in one race. It's insane. Because of that, this game is oftentimes considered one of the most difficult racing games on the NES, if not the most difficult. And with difficulty comes a learning curve that takes time. While the races are only about 6 minutes long, you'll likely invest 33+ hours trying to win the World GP, which is much easier said than done. This game will challenge you. Before we continue, I would like to let you know that we're currently working on a major milestone of 8,000 subscribers. If you love retro gaming content, this is the place to be. And if we reach that milestone, I'll make a special video of the community's choice. Let's get back to the action. This is a cool game. I know we've covered a few turn-based strategy games, so you're probably like, oh, another one? Well, hate to break it to you, there's another one later on down the list too, so sorry. Shingen the Ruler, though, it's neat because it's not Koei, so that Koei style of number crunching kind of goes out the window. Instead, this is Hot B, and they're a nifty little company that kind of mixed it up a little bit. They tended to touch tons of different genres, and most of their games are dope, I really can't complain. Now, this game is based around the struggles of Takeda Shingen during the Sengoku period of Japan. You'll find that a lot of the Chinese-based games tend to focus on the Romance era, Japanese ones tend to focus on Sengoku. The usual suspects that are usually involved are Oda Nobunaga, which guess what, he's in this game, and Uesugi Kenshin, the big dick ruler of the Sengoku era, or at least one of the most powerful daimyos, and constant rival to Takeda Shingen. In some ways, the game pitches a potential for Shingen to unify the territories, but I don't recall if he ever did. I'm not well versed on Japanese history, and I'm not going to pretend that I do know, but if you do, feel free to tell us down below. If you want to accept the challenge of unifying Japan, then don your armor and get ready to spend 35 hours of not messing up. Don't mess up. You mess up, it's it. 35 hours gone, just like that. If you were to buy this game on literally any medium, crack open a beer, pour it on the carpet, and leave 3 burnt cigarette butts in an ashtray by your desk, just allowing the scent to permeate through your walls, then you would have an authentic experience. I shit you not. This game is mean. It's the equivalent of having a pool shark on your shelf, and I own like 3 different versions of this game. They're all fucking hard. I'm not talking, oh, this is tough. I'll learn though. I'll get better. We'll have fun. Fuck no! This game will beat you down. It'll do more than beat you down. It'll put a leash on you and walk you around the block and put you in a kennel. It's fucking mean. The AI in this game is brutal. They don't miss, and you really need to become familiar with the motion physics of whatever platform you play this on. Now, the whole idea is we go through a world tournament of 10 people, that is to say, 10 people that live, breathe, and shit pool, right? It'll take about 40 hours to do that. Ah ha ha! Enchanté! Je suis Napoleon Bonaparte, et c'est mon jeu. You play as me, trying to take over Europe and destroying the rat pig boy peasants and their less superior moral standing and less seasoned food. This is a doozy. It's another Koei game, essentially a reskin of Romance of the Three Kingdoms. And it comes from an era where Koei figured it out, so hey, you know what we can do? We can do the same thing 300 fucking times, and as long as I change the scenario, nobody will say anything about it. The whole scenario, if you will, involves the Napoleonic Wars. Our whole job is to conquer Europe. Got a little joke for you. How many French soldiers does it take to defend Paris? Nobody knows. It's never been tried! This game does accurately represent the military capabilities of Napoleon Bonaparte during the French Empire run, which was impressive until people said, "Wait a minute, that's France!" and then proceeded to totally unravel the empire. Mad props to Napoleon though, that empire, more so what resulted after, defined modern Europe, and that's kind of impressive to me. The game though, it's long, it's stupid long, about 40 hours on a good day, and to be honest, it doesn't matter which starting point you take, it's going to be a labor of love. These games do not hold your hand. They are tremendously asinine, and for the time they existed, they were pretty bland. But they did the job, and for that, I can thank Koei. Oh boy, welcome back, Bases Loaded. Been a while, how's your mom and him? Fantastic, great, good to hear. I know I've shit on Bases Loaded a little bit today, but the first iteration, it takes the cake for being as delightful as getting your nuts stuck in a zipper, right? It suffered from the issues that most companies dealt with trying to adapt a video game based on baseball, right? One of my chief complaints were fielding. The computer can knock dingers out to the high heavens, and your players walk like the outfield is the La Brea Tar Pits, right? And that's something I didn't like about Bases Loaded. But if you were to commit to sitting through all of that bullshit, dealing with the subpar mechanics that would be improved on later, struggling to understand how to play it, and how to have an edge over the AI that wants you to lose, you're looking at roughly 80 games, 42 to 50 hours of unbridled, unrestricted, USDA prime buffoonery. If that's for you, you're set. If it isn't, then you might not have a good time. For me, I'm more likely to play these with the intentions of just a casual game, right? I couldn't imagine going all the way through. I know some of you might scoff at this, but I challenge you to look outside the box and consider exactly what the Miracle Piano teaching system is. It's more than just mini games that we saw the AVGN play. It's more than just a coach. It's a full curriculum of piano lessons over a course of a few different styles, be it classic, rock, or show tunes. It has tons of lessons dedicated to teaching you how to play piano from the ground up. Now, if you were experienced in playing the piano like I am, then this would be nothing, right? It wouldn't take you long to burn through the software, but something tells me people who knew how to play the piano likely weren't buying this. It wasn't meant for that. It was meant for people who have never played the piano to learn how to. And with zero skills and zero experience, you would likely be looking close to 100 hours of lessons of varying difficulty. It's safe to say that you'd be pretty efficient at least at learning how to read music and how to work your way around a piano, but there are certain intricacies that aren't covered, right? Like hand positioning, hand transitioning, use of pedals, stuff you would learn from a sit-down coach. But for what it is, this is a great piece of long-term software for kids who wanted to learn. And that's it for today's episode. What'd you think of this list? What are some of the longest games you've ever played on the NES? Feel free to tell us down below in the comments. Who knows, maybe you'll pave the way for someone else to create an amazing memory for themselves. Speaking of our community, if you made it to the end of this episode, you're already home in our community. We're a group of phenomenal individuals who love remembering a time when life was just a little bit easier to live. I'd personally love to have you here. Finally, the most important thing you can do for me is to hit that thumbs up button, as it directly impacts the visibility of the videos and the projects that I work on every single day. As always, from my family to your family, good energy, good vibes, Fortefyre out.